Hello and welcome to Landscape Photography World, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. Donna Martinez is a seasoned Colorado-based black and white nature and landscape photographer who has been behind the camera for over 30 years. Her first love was black and white film, and her love of black and white has continued into the digital age. Her passion for touring scenic locations around the US, and in particular Colorado, comes from her enjoyment of the beauty of the outdoors. The stories the landscape and wildlife can tell drive her to share them with the world. We talk about how she got started as a military wife moving around the US and other countries that opened her eyes up to the beauty around her. Donna's workflow for taking and processing her stunning images, along with a whole lot more. I hope you enjoy the show. G'day, Donna. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
I'm doing well, and how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. It's a bit wet and rainy here today, but it's warming up. We're into spring and coming towards summer. Why don't you tell people where you are and how things are traveling where you are?
Well, I'm the opposite of you, obviously. I'm in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So we just finished fall here. So we haven't finished it. It's still probably going pretty good. But as for what I've been doing with it, it's slowed down a little bit for me. But yeah, it's fall here. And I am in Colorado. And I've been here for about, we got here in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been here how many years is that? 11 years now already?
About 11 years now, yeah. It sounds weird when you say a 2000 number and you go, wow, that was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
The 2000 started.
I am a military wife. Well, my husband is retired, so he spent 23 years in the military. So this has not been our only home, but we are from the state of Colorado. So we've lived here for most of our lives. And we got lucky that we got to stay here at least twice. So half of his career we got to be here, but I've been in places like Panama, Germany, Maryland, and Washington State. So
nice.
I've got to go, some fun places and see some cool things.
Bit of travel. Very nice. So
Yes.
Why don't we start with why photography, and in particular, why landscape photography? What is it about landscapes that gets the juices flowing?
Well, I think I kind of thought about that today, and it's been a journey. I haven't always done landscape photography. I'm going to be one of those photographers that says I've done just about a little bit of everything.
Sure.
Yep. I started in 1985 as a high school photographer for my newspaper.
Okay.
And I think most people probably started off that way. So my initial dreams with photography were doing sports photography. I wanted to be one of the first women sports photographers. And I mean, now you see them all over the place. I keep going, oh, darn, I could have been one of those people. But I through college, I did mostly newspaper photojournalism.
Sure.
That's where I got my love for film and black and white photography, because most of the newspapers I was on didn't do color photography. So it was I started out all in black and white. So, I mean, I'm not mostly a landscape photographer. That's what I'm doing now.
Yep.
But and I love it because you kind of learn things as you're going on through life, and every little journey that you do teaches you something new that helps you move on to the next thing. And I don't think that you should ever stop learning things. So I've always constantly been trying new things and doing something different. I'm kind of one of those people that I need the adrenaline rush for doing something new all the time. So I've primarily, most of my career was portrait photography.
Okay.
Because as a military wife, you can go just about anywhere and do portraits for people. So I spent most of my time doing that. And then after I kind of got tired of people, you get tired of working with customers and people. When I got back. Yeah. So, I decided to start doing the nature and the wildlife. So then I got the longer lens and did wildlife for a while. And then I started getting decided to try the wide angle lenses and do some landscape. So now I'm doing the landscape. So I don't have a whole lot of landscape type experience. but I love it because it's so freeing for me, and I love the connection with nature, and I think it's where I need to be right now because it's a connection with everything. And I feel like I've come to that point now where this is where I was like being aimed to.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Oh, that's fantastic. So one of the questions I almost always ask is, what is it that you're chasing with your photography? What is it that I guess you're really looking for, and what's driving the passion?
And I hate to say I'm a perfectionist, but and is there any such thing as perfection?
Not in my photography.
I just always want to be, but yeah, not in photography. I just always want to try to get better. There's just, I look at my work and I always see so many things wrong with it.
Yeah.
And I could have done this better, and I could have done this better. So the next time I go out, I want to do this differently, and I want to try to do this better. Or maybe if I add this filter, this will look, more like what I'm envisioning. So I'm a perfectionist. I'm just always trying to make it better.
Yep.
Because you learn things all the time, and that's what's so wonderful about photography is there's just so many ways you can do it. It is the old adage, you need to know the rules to break the rules.
Absolutely.
Sort of a thing. So you learn about it and then you go break the rules. So yeah. And make it your own.
And I think that making it your own is probably what makes people's work special is they all put their own little flavour. And as you say, there's so many different ways of doing things that there's plenty of scope for making it your own, even though it might be an iconic location or so forth. Yeah,
because everybody goes to the same places anymore. So you need to find different places that nobody's going to. And then and if you're going to go someplace that everybody's been, you really do have to put your own salt and pepper on it and make it, different.
Absolutely. I asked the question the other day on social media about whether people thought that what was more impressive was a image that nobody had ever seen before in terms of a new location versus something that's run-of-the-mill and every day, but a very new take on it, a unique take on it.
That's what I like. Very run-of-the-mill every day, but my take on it. Because I feel like I see things, everybody does. Everybody feels like they see things differently than everybody else.
Sure.
But from what I see, when you see what's out that people put out, it's just, I don't think that a lot of people do the same thing that I do. But that's maybe I just don't know enough people. It could very well be I just don't know enough people that actually do it. But I think I would take more pride in myself finding something more mundane and everyday that people don't necessarily look at and make it something that they go, wow, that's really cool that you saw that way. So yeah, I don't like I'm going to go back to I don't like people. So I don't like going to the same locations that everybody go to anyway, because I don't like lining up along, a bridge with 50 other people trying to get the same shot of the same thing. It's not necessarily what I like to do. So
yeah. Well, particularly in the US, I know that there's some locations which are just oversaturated with photographers. Not just landscape photographers with tripods, though, there's tourists, plenty of those. But tourists with their iPhones or their Androids or whatever, and it can get quite crowded. Have you ever encountered that?
Yeah, well, no, because I don't do that. But I do appreciate now that they are making it so that you have to do like registration. I think it's registration. You have to get like a pass to go into like Maroon Bells and Hanging Lake. You have to pay to get in there, and they only let a certain amount in at a time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of alleviating that issue some, but there's still, everybody wants to go to Maroon Bells in the fall. Everybody wants to go to Hanging Lake in the summer. There's all these different places that people want to go and see. And that's fine. But yeah, so I kind of stay away from those areas. So you probably wouldn't see a lot of the more common iconic type places of Colorado that I've been to, other than I go to places like White Sands and the Great Sand Dunes and places like that. And it's so spread out that you don't encounter being, butted up to people that way. So
Nice.
you can find your way and find your space.
So where do you sit on the planning versus spontaneity spectrum? And what I mean there is,
Um,
do you spend a
I'm
lot
a,
of time planning your shots and your shoots, or do you kind of just go out and go, okay, well, I'm just going to head here and
I am an overshooter, and I go out and I just shoot spontaneously. There's the word I'm looking for. But I've always dreamed of being one of those people that can go out to a location and set up my tripod and, find the right angle and find the right composition. And the tripod frustrates me.
okay,
I don't, I use it because I do a lot of long exposures,
yeah,
but if you're asking if I'm, I plan everything out to the point where I found a spot, then I get up at a certain time and I go to that spot and then I wait for the sun. I'm too lazy to get up at 500 in the morning and get out for sunrise. And when you do black and white like I do, it's just about the light anyway for me.
yeah, yeah,
So the colors and all that stuff, they're great. I can appreciate that with a lot of people's photography, but for when I'm out, it's more about the light. So I like the low light. I don't have to get up at sunrise
yeah,
to go out, but I
yeah,
really don't. I like to be spontaneous and just shoot what I feel when I'm looking at it. So yeah, you get a lot of bad ones that way, and you get a lot of them that you got to throw away, and you get a lot of images that take up your hard drive. But
yeah,
I just have always done it that way
yeah. Okay.
and
How
hope for
about
maybe 1% that are good.
so for somebody that's not seen your work, how would you describe your style?
Um, Contrasty, black and white. Um, detail and texture oriented. I am
Mm,
very fixated on textures and details. So I like to look for things that are going to show me, that's why I picked sand, ice, and water, because
yep.
I can do the long exposures with the water. The ice has a lot of detail. You can sometimes get water with the ice. Sand has always got ridges and the way the light plays with it. So those three things are like my big top three things that I like to look for.
Yep.
But I'm always looking for motion too. I mean, I like sharp details and texture, but I like motion. So I
Yeah.
don't mind if I can find something that's stationary and then have stuff moving around it. So I'm trying to find different ways to show that to people too. But it's not necessarily nature sometimes. It's people walking or,
Sure.
in a street or with street buildings and things like that. But I don't do a lot of it and I don't show a lot of it because I want to be more known for the landscape at this point and grow with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like to play with things, so I'll do anything.
Would you say, and I guess when did this sort of change for you? Would you say that you are trying to create artistic photography or more documentary photography?
Oh, I'm more on the artistic side. I'm going to be one of those people that I like Photoshop and I like to
Sure.
dabble with, sliders and dodging and burning and yeah, that comes from my background in black and white photography. I was always using different filters in the darkroom and using dodging and burning, and so
Yep.
that's where I grew up in photography, was doing those things. And so I've never really felt that I could be a purist type photographer. I
Mm.
always like to not manipulate it, but I like to, play with it a little bit. And I
Sure.
have done photo manipulations and on a very large scale. There was a period for like 1 year where that's all I did was
Mm.
just putting photo manipulations together. So I like the creative artistic aspect, and I like the fact that I can go in and enhance something a little bit more to look like what I envision it to look like.
Okay.
Um, I've not ever really, I mean, other than the photojournalistic stuff when I was in newspapers, you obviously can't do anything with that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so I've always been creative. I was a painter as a little child. I did watercolor painting. So I've always been artistic. So I think it's that drive to be creative, and the camera has just been what I've done for the last 40 years.
Yeah. So for you, the artistry, I guess, started well before the
Oh yeah.
camera became the tool for it.
Yeah, it was I can still remember the day that I went into the high school newspaper to apply for it. And as like I went in and I wanted to go do layout. I thought that would be cool. And he
Yep.
goes, "Well, I've already got enough layout people." He goes, "What I really need is a photographer. Do you want to be a photographer?" And it's like, okay. So, and he showed me how to load bulk film and,
Yep.
how to develop it. And, once you get that smell of a dark room and the red
Yeah.
lights and, you're in it. You can't get out. It's
Yeah.
in your blood. So yeah, now I can't get out of it. I kind
Yeah.
of gave up on the drawing and the painting in lieu of my camera because I can do so much with my camera.
Mm-hmm. How much do you think that influence of working in the darkroom yourself has influenced the way that you process digital now?
Oh, everything. Because I still kind of think that way. Where do I want to dodge? Where do I want to burn?
Yep.
What filter is going to work best here? Can I manipulate the yellows or the reds or the blues, in the black and white mixer. So everything I do now was set up when I started in the dark room.
Yeah. Great.
So you can't, yeah, you just can't get it. You just can't get it out of your system. I would get it back in a dark room and do film, in a heartbeat if I really thought I could, but
Yeah, if I had the space, I'd probably consider it. But then I'd also look at the cost of the chemicals and the cost
mhm.
of the paper and all the rest of it, and it's kind of like,
But then look at the price of our equipment, it's
well,
gone
that's
sky
true.
high too. So that's went quite up went way up dramatically considering what I started on.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then you want to start getting into the Hasselblad and Zeiss
Yeah.
realm of medium format and large format and all that sort of thing.
Never been that lucky to shoot on medium format, for me. I've got to use them before, but personally I've never owned one and I would love to go, medium format, but
Mm.
um now my eyes kind of drawn to the full frame that I use because I can move it a little bit more. So
Yeah, yeah, sure. So you mentioned not liking to be stuck to a tripod.
yeah.
Where did that sort of come from? Is that from the film days, or is that just
Mm,
something that you sort of developed as a technique?
um I've always been kind of a little bit ADD when it comes to shooting. I kind of feel like I get into a zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to move too much and I want to change things too often and I want to move here and I want to move there. So it's just too cumbersome to deal with a tripod going back and forth. And I mean, and I do use it. I do
Yeah,
use it. I
yeah,
don't want anybody to think I don't use it. But if I'm in a spot where there's, a lot that I don't have to use a tripod for. Like fall leaves here this year, I rarely used a tripod unless I thought it was something that I needed to focus stack or do something a little bit more. I did a bunch of panoramas this year that were really pretty from the fall. So there are certain instances where I like to use it, but I like to it makes me feel more free to just kind of handhold. And
yeah.
I don't mind the little bit of extra grain I get if I've got to bump the ISO up to cover me shutter
Sure, sure.
speed wise. But, I, I think I feel freer just hand holding and walking and feeling nature kind of call to me as I'm walking around. So
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah.
tripod just is hard sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I know with some of the mirrorless cameras now, I mean, Olympus have got their Micro Four Thirds, where I think you can do something ridiculous like 7 seconds
And hand hold it.
handheld. And yeah, the
I
image
haven't tried it yet with my I have the or the Z7, the
yeah,
Z7 Nikon. So I just got it in January. I mean, I guess that's been about a year now that I've had it, but yeah, I haven't ever tried anything that low. I used to be able to do chapels and steeples and cathedrals in Germany, and I would
yep,
handhold it like 25th of a second. And that was with an Oli E1.
yeah, yeah,
So I've always been pretty good at hand holding, but I'm 54 now.
yep,
It's not as easy. And that's why I kind of had to move on from my D810 because it just got so heavy.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the mirrorless is a little bit lighter. So I'm enjoying the Z7 quite a bit.
yeah, fantastic. You mentioned that feeling that you get when you're in the zone. Talk to me a little bit about that. What is it like? What's going through your mind when you're in the zone?
And you're in the zone. It's kind of like tunnel vision. Um, I don't look. I mean, I do look outside of the camera and not in the viewfinder, but I can feel it zeroing in on
Mm-hmm.
an area, and it's almost like it's a frequency that I'm on that something is there, and that's where I need to look. So you tunnel in on it. So when I'm really in a good spot and good light and, it's fantastic and I'm just all excited, then I'm just like all over the place and zeroing in on that. And I can, rattle off, 100 shots and not even think about it.
Yeah.
Um, it, and it makes me sometimes feel like, well, if you don't got a good one, there's something wrong with you because you really shot a lot. There should be something there that you can work with. But I I zone out. I can't hear my husband. He'll have to come tap me on the shoulder, like,
Yep.
okay, are you okay? And don't step over there because you about fell off the cliff. And he has to follow me around because I literally won't watch where my feet are. And
Wow.
I could walk off stuff and slip on things. And he's my little guardian angel watching over me to make sure that I don't fall and hurt myself, which I have fell. Luckily not hurt myself, but I have fell. But yeah,
Okay.
it's just an absence of really seeing anything else other than what I'm shooting.
Sure.
So it's a nice place to be, but it can be dangerous.
In terms of what you're trying to express and the expression of your art, how would you describe that to somebody that is new to your work in terms of what it is that you're trying to tell them, or are you kind of letting the work do the
The
heavy lifting
talking.
there?
Yeah, I'm in that camp where the work should probably speak for itself. If it doesn't speak for itself, then it's probably,
You got to explain it. It's
yeah, you have to
don't get
explain
the
it.
joke.
And my photo manipulations from long ago, people would go, huh, what were you doing? With nature, generally, you don't necessarily have to do that. They usually, they might, wonder why you got so close or why you didn't pull back farther. But, that's where everybody's different in how they look at stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
I like to think that I'm in an area where I like to shoot things that are like within the first 25 feet of me. So normal landscape photographers will draw way back and shoot the whole entire scene, and you'll
yeah. The
get
grand
your
landscape,
thirds
get
and yeah,
everything.
the grand
Yeah.
landscape type stuff. I really have hard time with that. It's
Okay.
really hard for me to see a foreground and a midground and a background. But if it's like right in front of me where all the details are, so I don't think that's considered landscape photography, honestly. I mean, it's more nature photography, but people will call it landscape photography, and I guess you know, if that's
I've
what I am, that's what I am. But
I've got a pretty broad definition of
yeah,
landscape. To
yeah,
me, even street to a certain degree,
yeah,
less so street with people, but that urban architecture, the urban
that's a landscape.
abstracts. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's all
Yeah,
even astro. That's landscape.
yeah. And I don't know if it's because over the last, 5 or 10 years, your eyes get worse and you have to use, readers and the contacts get stronger. And I've got
Mm.
macular degeneration in this eye. So it's going to go out on me in, the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know if it's just me zoning in on a new area because um, of necessity.
Yep.
That's how I'm evolving in my photography because I need to see the things that are up close because that's what I'm seeing better. If you
Mm,
want me to see really far away and see, all of that, it's not as easy as it used to be. So I
sure.
think it's more of an evolving because of aging and eyesight.
Yeah.
So, at some point you have to wonder, when the camera is just going to have to do everything for you and you're just, pushing a button and you're guessing that it's looking good. So I don't know, but I
Yeah.
would hope that's going to be a long ways off.
Oh, well, let's hope so, because your work to date has been wonderful.
Thank you. I enjoy it. I do enjoy it.
You can see the enjoyment in the work, I think. How would you define success with your photography?
Oh, that's a tough question.
That's why I asked it.
Success with my photography. Well, considering I've not necessarily been an overly successful photographer other than doing portrait work. I mean, and that's a job. I mean, that's not, that doesn't feel to me like, I mean, you can be creative with it.
Sure.
But, I've gotten into a couple magazines, but not very many. I've not tried. I've not done juried competitions. So I can't gauge anything by how well it does in a juried competition. I don't sell a lot of prints, but it's not because I don't try. It's not one of the things that is a focus for me. So I'm sure if I worked harder, I probably could sell more, but I don't want to base anything that I do with photography based on money.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be something that I get a monetary positive reinforcement from. I think, and even nowadays with social media, I don't even want to say it gets lots of likes or it gets lots of love for me, I guess successful photography is going to be something that lasts the test of time. Something that, if it's around for a while and people can enjoy it for a while, even if I'm not here, and people can still enjoy it. I think that's probably the most important thing for my photography. I would like it to be here for a while and for people to enjoy it for a while.
Sure. I want to talk a little bit about work-life balance or life photography balance. Where does photography fit within your life in terms of how much time are you devoting to it and how much time are you devoting to other things?
I am, like I said, I'm a retired military wife, and I was always a stay-at-home mom. So my portrait photography that I did, based out of the house. I'm one of those, moms with a camera.
Yep.
I always had my camera with me at home. My kids always knew I had a camera. My husband's always doted on me and helped me with my camera. Now, what was the question?
How much of your life do you spend photography versus other things?
So where I was getting with that, oh my goodness, where I was getting with that is I've never really been out of the house. So it's always been something that I've done at home.
Yep.
So earlier on, it would have been more with the kids and being a mom and doing photography on the side. Now that my husband is retired, he still has a job. I don't have a full-time job. My photography is my thing.
Yeah.
So, joining the NFT space in December, this is all I've done for the last 9-10 months.
Wow. Okay.
It's been a way I can, I'm so lucky and so blessed that I have all of the time in the world to devote as much time to it that I possibly can and do, what I want with it. It's not like we're, a young family. I've got all the equipment I need. I've got studio equipment. I've got my camera equipment. I've got lenses. There's nothing I need.
Yeah.
I just bought a new truck. So I'm like, I've got a new VR2 to take me to the mountains anytime I want. And, they're just 30 minutes away. Nice. So I literally, will wake up in the morning and look at the weather and see if there's some clouds. Because here in Colorado, we don't get clouds, a whole lot. And I like clouds because, they just make my light better. But I'll, gauge the weather and think of spontaneously find a place that I want to go to and just jump in the truck and go. Yeah. I can do that. I can, gas might be a little bit fuzzy in the next while, watching gas prices. The truck's going to be a little bit more expensive to fill up, but I cannot complain. I am just absolutely in a point in my life where I can dedicate everything that I do to this and make it me and make it mine and take it where I want. So it's just how far I want to go with it and what I want to do. There's no, having to deal with a second or a job that gets in the way and all that. So yeah, I'm very, very lucky that my husband has created a life that we can do this and I can do this full time.
Awesome. In terms of travel, are you traveling just within Colorado? Are you getting out and about further for photography? And I'm
Well,
talking trip specifically photography because, when you go on holidays, of course, you're going to take your camera, you're going to shoot.
You take advantage of where you get to go. I have
Right.
3 daughters, and all of them have military ties too. So um, I tend to take advantage of visiting them for places that are around where they are that I've not been to. Because, like I said, I'm an adrenaline junkie. New stuff just totally. I get bored sometimes. And in Colorado, you get bored. I don't know how you could get bored here, but I can get bored here if I let myself. So I kind of get that, want destination anxiety. I want to get somewhere and do something different. So yeah, I take advantage of going to see the kids. But last year, I did a solo trip by myself and did a solo SUV camping trip. And I went in 2 weeks into the mountains all by myself, camped by myself, everything. And then came back, and my daughter had just moved to New York. So I drove cross country and did a 3-week trip, drove out to New York, upstate New York, and spent a week with her, and then went and visited another photography friend down in Tennessee and just drove. I was just me for 3 weeks on the road, and it was just absolutely fantastic. So I love that sort of a thing, but I also love doing stuff with my husband, and, we're a pair. So it's hard for me to do those kind of things without him because I don't want to do it without him, but I can. And so I do plan a lot of trips. I want to go to Moab this year, and I want to, they're out of Colorado. I can go down to Antelope Canyon and Moab, and that's 2 of the places that I really would like to get to. So I can go out of state. It's just finding time, and I don't like snakes, so it'll have to be when it's cold because I won't go when it's hot.
Fair enough. We get some snakes here too, and summertime is not the best time to be wandering around. Certain places. I'm put it this way: I'm 58 now, and I've seen probably 6 snakes in the wild in all of that time. And I used to be a Boy Scout and camping holidays, all that sort of thing. So you don't come across them that often, though everyone talks about how dangerous they are.
Yeah, I know where you're at. You probably have a lot. I saw my first bear this year, so that was I was out in Crested Butte area by myself on one of my fall trips just a couple weeks ago, and saw my first wild bear out, and it was, and I've been out a lot, so that's pretty good to be the first time that I've ever seen one. But that makes you kind of wonder, okay, I'm sleeping in my car, and I'm gonna have to be real careful about what I'm doing.
Don't leave any food out anywhere.
You learn how to be a very good camper.
Oh, absolutely. How does where you live influence how and what you shoot? I'm really interested in that confluence between those 3 things: the place that you shoot, which might dictate what you shoot, but also what you shoot might dictate how you shoot. Alternatively, you may have a particular style of or way of wanting to shoot, and that then may dictate the place you go and what you're shooting. Do you think about that not necessarily in those terms, in terms of how those things influence one another?
I haven't really thought about it, but I've learned to love. Not learned to love. I've grown to love the long exposures this year. So I'm constantly, water is like the first thing in my brain when I'm thinking about where I want to go, is where can I find some really good water to do some long exposures. So there are quite a few places, you can do lakes, you can do streams, you can do the waterfalls, some of them you have to hike quite a ways to get to. So you have to be quite fit to get to them. So I'm always looking for stuff that's a little bit easier, but and ice, I can always find ice in the winter. Winter's always good because we're in Colorado. There's always ice in the winter. And sand is just a byproduct of me going to visit my daughter. So I would go to the white sand dunes near Holloman Air Force Base. So sand is when it's an opportunity, since I'm going to be there, but ice and water are pretty much where can I get that? And I'll see spots that I'll want to go back to, and I'll, kind of plan out, or I'll see somebody else shoots them and I'll try to find something close. But as for dictating what I shoot, I don't know. I just think I'm in a lucky place. I think I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I think the universe has put me here because this is what I'm supposed to shoot.
Yeah, great.
It's like I said, I've been driven to a point of doing the landscape photography and what I've been doing based on what I've been doing my whole life. And you're not driven to some place unless, that's where you're meant to be. So I feel like this is where I'm meant to be.
Okay.
So that I can be available to those things and shoot them more and make it easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense. Yeah, I really love that answer. That's fantastic. What's your favourite spot, without giving any secret spots away, because you obviously don't want hordes of people there?
My favorite spot, and it's not going to be water, and it's not going to be ice. And I can tell you where it is because I was just there. Durango, Colorado. Okay. If we could move down to the southwest part of the state where the $1 Million Highway is and Telluride and Ouray and Ridgeway, that road from Ouray to Durango is, I could spend hours and hours. And we did. When we were there this fall, we went for a weekend. It took us 6 hours to go 40 miles.
Wow.
Because my husband was having, we have this joke between us that it's an ooh, ooh, ooh moment. If he hears me say ooh, 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 he has to find a place to pull over. And sometimes I don't give him much time to pull over. And that road's not necessarily one of those really good roads that you can stop
you can
on.
Just pull over anywhere you like. Yeah.
But it's just a beautiful drive, and there's so many little offshoot roads that you can get on, and it's just beautiful in the fall. And it fills you up for the whole year. I kind of have to go and get my fall fill so that I can go on to the next season. And it lasts me all year because fall is so pretty here. And we hit the fall in Durango this year at the beginning of October, just at the perfect time. There was atmosphere and clouds, and the leaves would turn just enough. They weren't peaked, but they were just enough so that it didn't look dingy, and it was just perfect. It's my happy place down by Durango and Pagosa Springs, and that's everybody could go there, I guess, but it's just my favorite place to be.
Fantastic.
And it's 5 or 6 hours away, so it's like when we go, we have to go and spend a weekend there and then come back. So I don't get to go there very often. So I guess that's probably why it remains my happy place, because I don't get to see it super often. Take it for granted.
Yeah.
But I get to see it, at least when we'd pilgrimage there once a year and go and enjoy the leaves for a long weekend, and it's really good.
Nice. Would you retire there, or?
Yeah.
Or is there somewhere else that you'd prefer to be from one of the other places that you've shot?
We like Colorado Springs just because it's so centrally oriented in the state. Denver's a little bit further. We have family up north, so family's here. But we're far enough away that, we don't see them all the time, but they're close enough. If we have to go see them, we can go see them. I miss kind of how we deal with it. But I like Colorado Springs because, I'm a 2-hour drive from, some of the most gorgeous stuff. I can do day trips and just leave early in the morning and drive somewhere and shoot for 3-4 hours and come back and be home by dinner.
Lovely.
So it saves on a lot of expense having to stay in hotels and, and if I think it's going to be a little bit longer, I pack stuff so that if I've got to stay somewhere, but we can go to Estes for a day. We can go, down to the sand dunes for a day. I can go, lots of places from here. And I like being centrally situated in the state so that I can do anything I want at a whim. So I would love to be in Durango because it's beautiful. That's if we win the lotto, place to go.
Sure.
But we'll probably stay here because my husband likes his job and he does pretty good at it. So
fair enough. What's the most memorable experience you've had out shooting?
Out shooting is just memorable anytime you do it. So I don't think I've ever got an image or had an experience that made it the top
Okay.
of a memory, because every time I'm out, I'm at that level of ecstasy of being out shooting,
Wow.
that's where you want to be. So
Yeah.
um you can come home and be a little disappointed about what you got, but the time there is never, shooting is never anything that's not the top level of what you remember.
Yeah.
That's why I keep going out. I mean, I just love being out and shooting to the point where it's a drug. I've got to just keep doing it.
Fantastic. What about the horror stories? Everyone's got one.
Horror stories. It's not a landscape one.
That's okay.
Horror story was starting out in sports photography, and I was doing a football game once, and there was a long bomb. The quarterback threw a long pass, and I was trying to get down the field, down the sidelines, so I could get down and try to get a little bit closer to the guy that was catching the ball. Well, somebody threw a helmet or something, and I stepped in the helmet on the sidelines and did a somersault with my gear up in the air and stood up and finished running down the sides. I was so embarrassed. I don't know how I got back up to my feet, but I was just mortified. I was right in front of the bleachers of everybody. And here this stupid photographer's running down the sidelines, and I stepped in a helmet and flipped over and did a somersault and then went back down. So yeah, that's a horror story. I was just so embarrassed. But I've never had anything like that happen doing landscape stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, it's old memories.
You haven't dropped any gear in water or anything like that? Or
No.
Oh, wow.
Nope. Come close a couple times. I've not had that disaster happen, thank goodness, but
I
couple
keep
times
getting
close.
splashed with waves, and I've had the Canon I've got now go into the shop twice to get new innards put in.
I haven't got to do seascapes. I haven't done seascapes yet.
Well,
So
not a lot of sea in Colorado. So.
No. So that's another place I want to get to, is to the ocean. So we used to live in Washington State, and I've been to the beach, but at that point in my life, I wasn't super into photography. And I just think, man, if I had only been a photographer then, the things I could have gotten.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely something I want to do. So all the people with their camera took a dunk in the water and the waves took it over. I haven't had that experience yet, so I guess I'm pretty thankful. I've been pretty good at gear. I'm hard on my gear, but I've been pretty good that it lasts quite a while. I don't have too many disaster stories other than batteries running out and running out of card space and the typical stuff.
Yeah, I do that all the time, particularly the running out of cards. I carry about 8 cards with me now.
See, and what size are they?
They're all 64 gig. So
I have the 128.
Yeah, I can
get quite a lot on those.
Yeah, I've got 128. So I had a bit of experience early on with them. They're probably better than they were before, but I had a few fail on me, so I went back to 64s. So.
Yeah, well, there's this new Nikon mirrorless camera. They have those different cards for them now.
Yeah,
I can't remember what you call them. I'm not technical.
Letters.
Yeah, they're just like the big, thick looking, like compact flash cards that cost $300. I mean, so yeah I've got 2. So
what have you learned about the world through photography?
What have I learned about the world? That it's beautiful everywhere. Everywhere you go, it's beautiful. You just have to stop and look at it. And you have to take time to sit and really look at it. It bothers me to no end when people come to these places that are just so beautiful and they just take their phone out, take a picture, and then move on to the next place. They don't enjoy it, and they don't. Yeah. You need to let that area kind of fill you up and, put it in your memory banks and think about it and think about how you felt and what was going on so that you can remember it later. I don't want it to be a fleeting memory. So you really just have to sit and think about it. And the people that don't realize that they're in beautiful places and take it for granted. And not everybody sees with a photography eye or a creative eye.
This is
and
it.
everybody sees that differently. So maybe they are seeing enough.
Yeah.
But for me, I really want to see it. I really want to look at it and see it. So.
And I get if you are touring around, it can be difficult to squeeze in everything that you want to see. And if you're in
lots of places to see, too many places to go.
Yeah.
Got to see everything on a time schedule.
I've got my 5-minute window to go and see this waterfall, and then I'm out of here on to the next thing.
But you just really need to understand that, everything is a blessing and nature is a blessing, and you need to, it might be gone someday. I mean, the water's already starting to get low, and, we have forest fires, and we've had several fires here that have just destroyed some areas.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of enjoy, I don't want to enjoy, but really soak it up, really, really take it in and enjoy where you're at and enjoy the beauty. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. In terms of your routine, what are you doing when you get on site? So you take your hike up to a waterfall or, out to the sands or wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
What does your routine look like?
Take the damn tripod off of my backpack and get rid of it and put it down. You walk around, and I usually get 10 to 15,000 steps when I'm like out, you do this. So it's a lot of walking around and just I'm looking for it to tell me something. So sometimes it doesn't say anything and you walk for a long time before it says something.
Yep.
Or the light's just not right. And, you kind of wait, you kind of look up at the sky, see if the light's going to get any better. But I try to find a good spot and find something, that I think is something that I see really well that probably other people don't see very well, and something I can show them. But it's definitely got to holler at me to say, no, over here, come over here, stop right about there. And, then I'll stop and I'll evaluate what I'm going to do, if I'm going to do a long exposure, if it's water, or if it's not, I'll just do some shooting at the details like bark and rocks and tin cans on the ground and junk. But I'm not big on a routine, I guess. I don't have a set thing that I've got to do OCD wise, you got to do this, then you got to do this. And I usually tend to check my gear and stuff before I leave the house. And if I don't, it usually bites me in the ass. So if I check my gear at the house, everything should be ready to go. My camera should be loaded with a fresh card. I should have a nice, good battery in it. I usually put the extra batteries in my pockets and my other card in my pocket just in case anything happens. And then I have a backpack that's got my wide angle lens, which is a 14-24 millimeter. And then I have another one that's a little bit longer than that, but it's like a kit lens, so I don't use it very much.
Sure.
Or I use the 70-300. But if I'm doing, if I want it to make look land, long exposure waters, I like to use the 14-24 and put the ND filter on it, and that will take some time to set up. If I find a really good spot, but it's either doing long exposure or I'm wandering around. So
you got a card full of images and you've packed up and come home. Are you straight into editing, or do you leave it to sort of sit and marinate for a while?
Yep. That's exactly what I tell people. It has to sit and marinate for a while. I will go look at them. Go look at them. I get them on the laptop and I go through them, and I find that it can it'll ruin my mood sometimes because they won't be as good as what I thought they were when I shot them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I tell people is what you just shot is so fresh in your mind because you were just there. That I don't think any image you take can actually live up to what your memory is of it. So what you have to kind of do is let, your fresh experience kind of fade a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that it can be the center stage in the show while you're editing stuff.
Yeah.
because things look totally different to me, a couple days after I shoot compared to the day that I did shoot and I go look at them.
Yeah.
I'm antsy. I want to look at them and I want to see, certain shots when I go home, but I really shouldn't do that because sometimes, it makes me think, oh, I've got to really let these sit and marinate for a while because they're going to take a while for me to look at again.
Sure.
But yeah, it takes a little bit sometimes to get working on them.
Yeah. So when you are working on them, are you spending hours per image, or are you more minimal and 10 minutes, that's enough, get it out the door?
Yeah, it depends. Like I said, sometimes I like to focus stack. I don't do it a whole lot because, like I said, I don't draw back enough to get like a foreground, midground, background sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing something that I have to do that on, that'll take a little bit more time, but and I'll put things back and forth between color and black and white and decide if it needs to be black and white or if it needs to be color. Generally, it's going to be black and white because that's what I was looking for to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't work probably more than 15 minutes on something.
Wow. Okay. So not lots of layers. Are you mostly Lightroom or a bit of Lightroom?
I always use Photoshop. I don't never use Lightroom. I've never used Lightroom.
I'm the same. Yeah.
I grew up in my photography life as a Photoshop person.
Yeah.
Been using it since 2001.
Yeah. Wow.
21 years later, I'm still using Photoshop. So,
yeah. But I mean, it's amazing
seeing
that evolution between where it was back in 2001 and where it is now.
Well, and now they have all the AI stuff that they've added to it. So, I mean, they've made it quite easy to make some pretty spectacular things if you're, really versed on how your Photoshop works. But, and I found that I use it less. The better it's got, the less I use it.
Yeah.
I use it just to do minimal, open it up, check it. I'll turn it to black and white first, and then I'll probably go down to the black and white mixer and change some colors to see where the colors lie so that I can get some good contrast with stuff. And then, and depending on what my exposure is, if it's really off, I might have to change the exposure a little bit, or, I always shoot for the highlights, so I don't necessarily need to mess with the highlight slider too much, but I might bring up some shadows and then go in with the brush for radial, what do you want to call it?
Radial filters, or
the radial filter.
Sorry.
So you can the gradient one, so that you can just go into certain spots now and dodge and burn like you used to in the old days. I'm really not technical. That is like one of my things where I don't, I'm not big on technicalities.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's very minimal. And it depends. Sometimes this last trip I had some dust on my sensor that I got on my sensor, and I spend most of my time kind of healing up some dust spots that were really bad, but I fixed that. So we're good.
Fantastic. Do you print much of your work?
I do. My husband likes my work. So,
that helps.
his time with me, he likes to remember some of the places that we've been to. So yeah, I've printed several things for the house. Not as much as I probably should. I give away a lot of prints. I'll print things for family and give them gifts that are photographs, but it's one of the things that we do want to get better at is printing more of the stuff that I've made and created. Yeah,
sure. Have you ever hit a creative wall?
Oh, yes. Probably more often than not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about how you deal with that.
And it's probably not necessarily, it's more boredom. It's more, getting bored with where I'm at. And once I go shoot something new, and it's, I have to find someplace just a little bit further away or something that I haven't tried before, or, do something that's different than what I've been doing to kind of snap me out of it. But I would say the time that I spend creatively bored is about 40%.
Wow.
I'm an ADD type personality. I want to be going all the time. And if I'm sitting, then I get stale and then I don't get motivated and then I can't get out, and it's crazy. But if I'm out and I'm in a mode where I'm shooting, I'll just keep going as much as I possibly can just to keep it going. Cause then I gotta go back and be bored again. I like the shooting more than the editing. I like the shooting part the most.
Yeah.
The shooting part is what I love the most. So I'd rather be out shooting and creating than back at the house editing and all the blah, blah, blah stuff. So
yeah. Nice.
So it'll depend on money too. So how much money do you have to go somewhere? And it's like,
well, it's always
everybody's got finances.
What do you see as the biggest challenge facing photographers right now?
Trying to keep it real. There's a huge, I love, AI, and I love the saturation, and I love photography, and I love seeing there's just some gorgeous stuff. But the things that you can do with photography now is totally made our expectations of what we should see like unrealistic.
Yeah.
And I catch myself doing this quite a bit when I go out. I'll go out and it's like, man, the leaves just don't look as bright this year. Or, this doesn't look that nice. It's because I'm so inundated looking at stuff that's so epic all day, every day, that now it's brought the level of what I see harder to see something good in it because I have an unrealistic expectation of what it is. So I think I don't want to say the problem, I think there's going to be a place where people are going to have to start remembering we got to keep it a little bit more real. And, it might come back down to more of the purist type stuff where nobody's ever going to show anything straight out of the camera. But there might be a point where people need to, tone it down just a little bit on all the enhancements.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't make, because it's obviously very disappointing for some people to go out and they want to see these landscapes that they've seen in all these beautiful pictures, and they go out and it's not like that, because they've pumped up the colors, they've added, clouds to the sky here, or a galaxy in the sky here, and
or the moon, or that flock of birds,
or the moon, or there's always these perfect objects in it, and I think it makes it really unrealistic for people to enjoy if you're not a a photographer and that they're doing those sort of things. And I love them. I don't want to talk bad about the photographers that do that kind of thing, because I do it myself.
Yep.
Because I just love the creative aspect of it. But I think at some point it can't be called photography anymore.
Yeah, it becomes.
And I think that's an argument. Yeah.
Photography. Yeah.
So
I can see a point where some of that AI software that you're seeing, where you can basically say a few words and it will generate an image, will be de rigueur in everyone's phone, and you'll be able to say a few words, take a shot, combine that with some AI, and it'll come up with a generative image that is whatever it is.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to say that you can't call that, I don't think that's photography, but some of the things that get, the composites, and it just gives people an unrealistic idea of what it looks like. Think 100 years from now, when we're all, the whole landscape has changed.
Yeah.
And all people have are the images that they see. And they go, well, this is what it looked like. It was, well, that's not really what it looked like. Not exactly. But, I think I don't want to say it needs to tone down. I guess I don't know where that line is going to be, but I can see it going over it. Yeah. No, yeah. I don't know if there will be. And I someday they're going to think that's what it just always looked like. But
definitely, yeah. I think that's an interesting comment, actually. The way you look at photos from 100 years ago, 50 years ago, where it was realistically, mostly a photojournalistic. That said, there's quite a lot of photographers. Frank Hurley, an early Australian photographer, who I've referenced several times, he was doing composites, and he was heavily criticised for it. He went on the Antarctic mission with Shackleton aboard Discovery, and he did some composites there. He was a photographer, an accredited photographer with the Australian military in World War One, and he did some composites there. And at the time, he was widely criticised for not showing what it was really like. But then you see the source images, and what he was giving you was an impression of what it was like to be there, not necessarily what it was actually like to be there.
Yeah. So it's intent. And I think people really need to clearly, state what their intent is.
Mm.
I don't know. Then money gets in the way, and people are like, I just want to sell something, and this is what people want to buy. So
this is
what I'm going to do. And like I said, I don't like to make it about the money, because then you do things that probably aren't necessarily within your nature that you really should be doing. So, if you're wanting to talk a purely photographic type way, I think it just needs just to come down just a little bit. But I would call it something different, maybe, so that it's not, it has its own identity, and then that way they don't get clashed with, photography. Photography is still, 100 years ago, it was still very primitive for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's progressed a lot, and it's changed a lot. And so you're going to you have to keep up with it, and it's going to change a lot more too. I mean, it's going to be amazing to see what photography does in the next 20 years, if I'm around to see what it does in the next 20 years. So
that's my next question. Exactly. What is the future of photography? Where do you see it going?
I don't know. I really don't know. That's scary, and it's exciting at the same time, because there's, I don't even want to get political. There's so much people that doubt what they hear and see anyway.
Yeah.
That they're going to doubt in what they see picture wise, and you're never going to have anything that somebody's going to believe is actually that thing anyway.
Yeah.
Because, they're going to just blame it on Photoshop or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, even though the ethics for photojournalism, things like that, it's pretty standard that you don't manipulate anything in photojournalism. But it's everybody has Photoshop, and everybody knows how to do it. If you're not everybody, but most people in photography know how to use it.
Yeah.
So most people are going to doubt and aren't going to be sure of what they see anyway. So I don't know. Unless there's a way, do you want it to actually be seen as something that's true, or is it just lost that whole, reality sort of a concept to begin with? So I don't know. The gear gets better every time, and the editing software gets better all the time. So I really don't know where it's going to go.
Now, this is it. I mean, you're saying already, in say the Google Pixel, you can swipe your finger around an object and have it be removed from your photo. So what was really there and what wasn't?
Yeah. So it comes down to what you want people to see and the perception you want people to see of you. So, and most of it comes down to people doing selfies, and then we'll get into I did portrait photography for a while, and it's like the magazine skin and the perfect hair and the perfect bodies. And, I was using Liquify to make boobs bigger and hips, more even. And it's not reality at a certain point. So
what do you like to do when you're not out shooting?
Oh, I have 5 grandbabies. I love my grandbabies. they're not here, but I'll FaceTime with my family and watch the grandkids. I mean, that's the best way to watch your grandkids grow up right now. I like to spend time with them, and I've gotten some new books. I like to read, so stay off the TV. Just like to sit and read and look at old files. Dredge up a couple old files from a couple years ago and see if I could find anything else in there that I like. So, but if I want to stay out of photography, totally, I'll read something and go have lunch with my husband. And I do walk at a nature center that's nearby that I'll try not to take my camera sometime, but it's always inevitable. You'll go without your camera and you'll see something you wish you could have shot. And then if you go with your camera, you can't find anything to shoot. So, but I will go without the camera just to get some exercise and get out. So,
yeah, fantastic. What would you be if you weren't a photographer?
I don't know. I really don't. Since I've been doing it so long, my mother always wanted me to be a doctor.
Mothers are like that.
Yeah. But it would be something artistic, I'm sure. I would have been just a painter or, probably a painter. I probably would have gotten into more of my painting that way because, it's always been something art ever since I was little. So I've always known that it's going to be something art driven.
Nice.
And I guess I did. I wanted to go to school to be like an art historian.
Okay.
And curate a museum.
Yeah.
So that would probably be something that if I wasn't, 54 and I was like 30 something and thinking about going to school, I might probably go to school to do that. But I would love to spend time in an art history museum and just get to look at beautiful artwork all day. I think that would be just fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree. That'd be awesome. We've all got our inspirational photographers. Is there any that you think I should be talking to on the podcast?
In the photography space?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, there's just so many good people. That's one thing that, the internet.
I'm never going to run out of people to talk to.
Yeah, you're never going to run out of you throw a rock and there's going to be somebody new that you just like, where have you been and why haven't I seen you?
Yeah.
Photography wise, I'm trying to think. I just have so many. And I'll probably butcher his name. Gianluca Podesta. I hatched his name. I'm sorry, Gian, but he's been in a couple of the collectives with me, and his work just, his landscape is just stunning to me. Him and Armand, they're just, I can't believe that they can see so much. I feel like I see minutely. I see details and texture and minutely. They see big. They see everything. They see the grand landscape, and it's just wonderful. I love their work tremendously. Paul Colleen, he's one of my really good friends, and we do spaces together. And Mick McCafferty, the Irish guys. I guess it's because I have a fascination with Ireland right now. I would really love to go to Ireland. So, those two guys, I love their work too. There's so many, and there's hidden gems like, I don't know what his full name is, but it's Ryan David Photos.
Yep.
His black and white work he's really underrated. I think he really deserves a little bit more credit than what he gets because his black and white work is really good.
Fantastic.
But there's just too many, you feel bad naming just a couple because you're leaving so many out that you just didn't think of. So
that's right.
But there's just wonderful people, and they're just so great to see every day and see what they do and watch their journeys. I'm really enjoying it.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I've got one more question, and it's the most important question I can ask. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Oh, God, yes. With jalapenos.
With jalapenos, okay.
Gotta have jalapeno. I have jalapenos on everything, because I love it spicy.
The
but yes, pineapple.
Combo.
Yep. I'm not Mexican. I'm the white girl in the family. My husband's half, and my kids are quarters. So, but then he doesn't eat anything spicy. He can't handle it. And I have one daughter that can't handle spicy either. But me, the hotter I can have it, the better. I love Thai food. I love Indian food. I love Mexican food, and I pour hot sauce on it. I just love it. So yeah, I like pineapple on pizza, but it has to have hot sauce too. So
Great. Fantastic.
hot sauce and jalapenos.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today, Donna. It's been wonderful.
It was wonderful.
To know you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. Where can people find your work?
You can either find me at my website, which is donnamartinezimaging.com, or I am also on Vero now, and it's Donna Martinez Imaging. And Instagram is Donna Martinez Imaging. And on Twitter, it's DM Images NFT.
Fantastic. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Vero, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.